Maryland's freshman class shines against FAU.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Maryland's freshmen looked great in the first game against FAU, and I thought they highlighted what was a lot of storylines. I thought the freshmen were maybe the biggest part, the biggest takeaway is that they're going to be a huge part of what Maryland football does this year. And we knew going into the year, this Maryland 2025 class was, I said it, I thought it was the best class that Mike Locksley has had. From top to bottom, to the talent that this freshman class had, with some of the players that the freshman class had, I thought it was the best class Maryland football had. I thought we got guys in the right positions. We had guys all over the place: offense, defense, O-line, D-line, the receivers, corners, whatever the safeties, whatever the case was, we had some type of player that I felt pretty confident coming in that they were going to be a good player. And I've said it all summer. I thought a lot of these guys would make an impact right away, but you just never know. They're still freshmen. They're still young. You don't know how much they've developed throughout the spring. For the guys that came early, you don't know how much they developed out in the summer. And so you still kind of question everything. But we saw against FAU that this Maryland freshman, and my take is that they obviously played really well, but more my take is that we are going to have to rely on these guys and that these are going to be huge cornerstones, not only for this year, but hopefully the next couple of years for Maryland football. We know how this has gone with a lot of different talented freshman types of players that we've had. We've been able to get some really good blue chip types of prospects, but they end up leaving. And I really hope that we're able to keep some of these guys, because a lot of these guys look elite. A lot of these guys look like they're players that might end up being some of the better guys in the Big Ten. And when you look at the freshman classes in the Big Ten, I think we're up there. I'm not saying we have a freshman class quite like an Ohio State or an Oregon or a Penn State, but I think we're in the right next to that tier with some talented players. And against FAU really showed that these guys are going to be players for Maryland football at key positions too. It's not like it's like a kicker running out there that's a freshman, and it's like, okay, obviously that's an important, very important position, but you guys know what I mean. At key position groups that people would consider the most important position groups, and obviously it starts with Malik Washington's play. I talked about it yesterday. If you guys want to go more in detail about, or if you want to hear more in detail about Malik Washington, check out the episode that I had on Monday. But man, that kid is different. The way he throws the football, the way he is able to find open, like the way his football IQ works, where he is for a freshman is just different. It's not something you're going to get very many. There's very few players in this class that will end up operating at the level that Malik Washington is. And the fact that he could come in and kind of easily dice up a defense like FAU, have 3 touchdowns, 258 yards, that's not easy to do. And he's the headline of the young guys, as we all know. He's the headline of the freshman studs. When I say they're at important positions, that's sort of one of them I mean is Malik Washington at the quarterback spot. And the fact he didn't get discouraged after starting, 3 for 9 or 3 for 10 to start the game with not very many yards and not doing too many good things, shows that he's going to be a good one to come, and that he has that composure to play the entire game, even when things are going well. They light up when things are going to start to open up. And I think we saw a kid in Malik Washington who threw for 3 touchdowns, used all different receivers. It's not like sometimes you see a freshman quarterback come in and it's like they really only like throwing to 1 or 2 guys because they haven't built the relationship with the entire receiver room. we saw a bunch of different players get touches, and we'll talk about the receiver room and kind of my thoughts on that in the next segment. But it was really awesome to see how Malik Washington played, what he did with his opportunity, and him being the future of the program. And I thought he shined in his debut for Maryland football. But that wasn't it. There were other freshmen that I was really excited that played at a really high level, that did some really good things for Maryland football. There were a couple of different guys, especially 2 edge rushers that I was like, these guys are going to be dudes. And when I say a dude, a lot of you guys know what I mean. But I mean, like, these guys are going to be elite. Like, these types of guys are the guys that you don't usually get. The guys that aren't just usually sitting around out there for you to get. It's just tough in terms of Maryland football. Some of these players, you just aren't going to get some of this talent all the time. And sometimes you have to develop it. And I mean talent off rip. But one thing is Maryland's pass rush for this year, for the next couple of years, looks really good. And I'll talk a little bit more about that the future. But in terms of the 2 freshmen, I'm talking about Sidney Stewart and Zahir Mathis. Just different types of guys, different types of players. Both freshmen came in, both different, completely different sides of the recruiting scale. And this is a good thing about Maryland football is when I talk about a kid, like Sidney Stewart, kid that didn't play senior year in high school, a kid that went under-recruited probably for now how much talent we're seeing him have, a kid that was only a mediocre 3-star. Like, nobody thought that kid was going to come in and make the talent. And then all of a sudden in camp, everyone's talking about Sidney Stewart. And I'm like, I kind of jumped on the bus. I didn't refrain. I didn't try and hold back because some of the things people were saying, it was pretty obvious that Sidney Stewart was going to be elite. And we saw that in game 1 against FAU and him coming off the edge. And I don't know if you guys have really watched him. He is insanely talented. This isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, Sidney Stewart is just like kind of producing. He's kind of producing over like what his talent is. Like, there's players that they work really hard. They watch a lot of film. It's a lot of technique. And I'm not saying he doesn't do that. But he's also just like, when you watch him move off the edge, like if you watch his sack against FAU, kid's a freak. He's a freak. The way he moves, the way he can bends off the edge. He's only 6'2", but it allows him to get so much bend coming off the edge. And he might be already our best pass rusher. And we heard that. And him getting that safety against FAU was a big play. It was a big play early on. And even though the score ended up not us really necessarily needing it, the way he was coming off the edge, I just thought it was kind of freakish. I was like, this kid is going to be a dude for Maryland football. Like, that's a guy that after this year, if all goes to plan, is a guy that we have to be able to keep because teams are going to be offering him hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of dollars to try and go somewhere else if it continues to go as planned. But that kid's going to lead us in sacks, I think. I'll go ahead and say that. And that's what I mean by freshman guys. My take is that not only do they play well this year, but they're going to be huge to what we do over the next couple of games, whether it's Northern Illinois, whether it's Michigan, whether it's Wisconsin. These are going to be our guys. He might be our best pass rusher already. Like, I don't think it's ridiculous to say that. And we lost Kellen White last year. And let me tell you this. I liked Kellen White's game. I thought he was a decent player. Like, I thought he was solid. I thought he was a solid Big Ten pass rusher. He was not moving like this kid, Sidney Stewart. And then next on the list, a similar type of freakish, long athlete that wasn't here all spring, but came in the summer and clearly looked different. Zahir Mathis, but he was when I say he was on the opposite side of the scales, he was kind of supposed to be a really high-end guy just because of where he was recruited and those different things. A 4-star rated recruit. Like, I'm not going to complain or put it against him because he showed a lot of that talent, but he was a 4-star rated recruit. I think he was rated like top 170, I want to say. I think I have in my head he was like about the 166th ranked player. Like, he was supposed to come in. He also had, on the official stats, I think a half sack. Other people are saying a sack. Whatever the case is, he got to the quarterback, created pressure against FAU, and looked good doing it. And those two guys, Stewart and Mathis, I think it's going to be really interesting if we can keep those guys. And then all of a sudden, we have the new shiny toy. And I know it's getting a little ahead of ourselves, but why not? Zion Ely coming in next year. Maryland's pass rush might mess around and be the best in the Big Ten. If you're able to keep guys, if you're able to allow Zion Ely to come in and make that type of jump into the Maryland lineup, we might be looking at a freaky front defensive end from Maryland football. So I thought those three guys really headlined it. It was sad for sure to see Jalen Gilchrist go down. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because I want to add him in there. He's obviously been playing well. They got him in there early, which is important. It shows that they're trying to rotate him in. He's kind of your next piece. And we knew that him being a 4-star rated prospect, we knew how good he potentially could be. But him going down with the injury, we don't know the severity of it yet, but he definitely is part of that group. Obviously, we didn't see as much from some other guys. There wasn't a ton of other freshmen that made an impact. I do want to mention actually a couple other that I thought, or one other that I thought looked really good. Jaden Ships, he had a really big sack on the day. I thought he looked good as well. So a lot of young guys. And then quickly, Mike Loxley's quote was, "This freshman group is different. A lot of these guys had the ability to go to what some would call better places. Choosing Maryland showed their leadership and character. Great recruits usually go to top 10 teams, not a team that won 4 games a year ago. By deciding to come here and help us build, they showed early what kind of character they had." And I think that's perfect. And these are the types of players that you're going to need if you want to jump this program to the next level, and guys that you're going to have to keep. But I was thoroughly impressed. Obviously, Malik Washington is going to make the headline. He's going to be on ESPN, like whatever the case is. But some of those underlining guys, Sidney Stewart, Zahir Mathis, I honestly thought looked good as anybody. So that was that. That was really awesome. Those are two guys that I thought looked really good for Maryland football. Maryland receiving core, I'm still trying to figure it out and what it's going to be like. We'll talk about that next after this. Mazda craft cars, for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more than 2025 IHS top safety picks plus awards than anyone else. As an athlete that focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. You can feel it in the moment, and you can get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda, even everyday drives, feels special. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like that, there's more to every player. That's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Let's talk about Maryland's receiving core. I talked about it a little bit on Monday. I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest. And this was just one game because I honestly feel like in the past we've kind of known who our guys are, and we're like, okay, those guys are going to take most of the snap. Like I feel like last year we knew Ty Thought and Caden Prather were our best receivers and some of the best players on the field. And so we didn't really want to take them out. I think this year it's more of a committee approach, which I don't think is necessarily good or bad. And maybe until late in the season where we have a better idea of who the dudes are going to be. From the start, I said Jaleel Farouk and Octavian Smith were going to be our two best receivers. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I think we'll have more clear picture as we get into conference play. But I do think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for a lot of different types of players to catch balls. I think there's one player, Shalik Knotts, I have to get credit to. 5 receptions, 60 yards. and a touchdown. Malik likes throwing it to Shalik. He looked good, and he's the guy I didn't talk about much this summer because I wasn't hearing about it. I was like, what's the deal with this kid? I wasn't sure if Shalik Knox was going to make the jump, like what the deal is. And it's just game one against FAU. But Shalik is a guy that looks like he might make the jump. That looks like he might become the next really solid Maryland receiver. And then another guy that I thought similar was like, I was like, is he going to, what's the deal with him? Caleb Webb. He looks like he's going to be a good red zone threat at the least, a deep threat at the least. Maybe he's not like your every down elite guy, but he looked good to me. Caleb Webb had a touchdown, 40 yards. Jaleel Farouk and Octavian Smith, they like weren't our leading receivers on the day, which was kind of, if you told me that Jaleel Farouk, Dorian Fleming, and Octavian Smith, neither one of those guys led our team in receiving, I would have probably questioned it. I'd probably been like, okay, Nolan Ray probably got a long receiving touchdown or something like that. I wouldn't have probably guessed that Shalik stepped up and that Caleb Webb stepped up. But I thought those guys looked really good against FAU. And there's always good to have depth because in the receiving room, you just don't know what's going to happen. In any position group in football, you just don't know what's going to happen. So having the more guys ready to play, having the more guys ready to do it for Maryland football is really important for the Terps. And it's something that does matter for Maryland football. But that was definitely cool to see because – and then it's interesting because I thought all offseason I was hearing really good reports about Ryan Manning, but he only caught one ball. So I'm like, okay, where do we kind of figure this out? And I think that there's kind of still question marks because I wonder when we get to some of the better teams, when it's not FAU, when it's not Northern Illinois, no offense, maybe they'll prove me wrong, is it going to work? Is that going to work? I don't know if I see a clear one yet. I think it'll transition more into Jaleel, like I said, into Octavian Smith. But for now, I just don't see a clear one. And I'm like, is that going to get figured out? I'm just not 100% right now. I'm just not positive what the situation is going to be with that. I don't know. I think Dorian Fleming might end up leading our team in catches. Malik likes throwing a lot of short stuff to him. But in terms of the receiving room, I think it's a question mark still. I think there's a lot to be figured out. I do think it's going to be a lot of different guys play. I just don't think they know necessarily who their best three guys are. And sometimes your best three guys aren't who fit the best together on the field. Like, that's where I had concerns about Ryan Manning. I was like, okay, I like Ryan Manning, but he's got to be more of an inside slot guy. And I know Octavian Smith likes playing there a lot. So it's like, does that work with Jaleel and Octavian? Like, does that work? So we'll see. But it was definitely interesting. They made plays. Nobody went off for like 80, 90 yards. And there wasn't like one target. But that, again, shows Malik Washington likes throwing to a lot of different guys, which I thought was pretty cool. Let's talk a little bit about this game against Northern Illinois. It is on Friday. I don't want the Terps to take a step back. I'll explain what I mean next after this. Most people can't name all their financials account or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401 properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface. On your laptop or your phone, Monarch is built for people with busy lives. And if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smarter categorization of your spending, and finally feel control of your money without even touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Maximizing investments, increasing your saving rates, easily reviewing finance with your partner and or financial advisor, and keeping a clear view of your financial health, week to week and long term. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser to half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can just get $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. There's so many different features on FanDuel's like player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping off live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download FanDuel app now and visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. So Maryland plays Northern Illinois, and Northern Illinois, I think, on paper is very similar to FAU. When I look at the line, when I look at what they have, they're very similar to Northern Illinois. So there's two opportunities here because let me tell you, the Maryland team played well. A lot of guys did some good things, but there are plenty of things to work on. There are plenty. I thought the run game was kind of poor. I thought the way we started the game in the first quarter was bad. There's so many different things to work on and to get better at. And I think this is a huge test for Mike Locksley because there's a lot of young guys. There's a lot of young fellows that are probably feeling themselves after that type of game. They're feeling themselves saying, I'm a 4-star freshman. I just played really well. And I'm not like saying anyone in particular, but I just played really well against FAU. Like, I'm just going to go out there and be able to do the same thing. They have to prepare the same way. They have to do all the things the same, if not better. Because remember, you never know what can happen in today's college football. Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame last year. The Notre Dame that made the national championship. Northern Illinois beat them. And I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen to Maryland, but I'm telling you now, we don't want a dogfight with Northern Illinois. They're an interesting team. They're a team that isn't going to be as talented as us, but with the young Maryland team, you just can't get ahead of yourselves because it's just not going to work. And I know we're going to get into the Big Ten schedule eventually, and I'm really excited for that. I am. Wisconsin, Washington, Nebraska, but we still have 2 games to go. And for Maryland's Bulls' sake, you can't drop any of these early season games. You just can't. And it's really big for reps and building confidence. So we play Wisconsin on September 20th. We're ready to go, and we don't get rolled by our former quarterback, Billy Edwards, and by a Big Ten opponent that's been pretty solid in the Big Ten. So I do think we need to continue to get better. I do think that we need to have a similar type of game. I thought defensively we were elite. We shouldn't all of a sudden give up 500 passing yards to Northern Illinois or 300 rushing yards. It needs to stay tight for this game against Northern Illinois. And if we go backwards, it's just not going to look good. And it's going to make me feel more unconfident. I've said it. I think this Maryland team is better than maybe I thought it was. But we got to remember that was a game against FAU. We didn't just play Alabama, or I don't even want to say Alabama today. We didn't just play LSU, or we didn't just play Georgia. We didn't just play someone elite. We played a team that wasn't that great. And so we need to remember that because there's a lot of young guys. Young guys get cocky. I understand it. You definitely got to stay behind that because if not, Maryland football could start to struggle, I think. And so I think that's important for Maryland football to be able to do. We'll see exactly what happens, but I do like our team. I like how we transitioned, but I just think if we could get another week where we don't have to play the starters the full game and things like that. And remember, the bowl game is really important for some of these games. How Vegas had our win total, they're really important. So that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for staying Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.